The day my sister called me broken in front of an entire crowd, I smiled. Not because I wasn't hurt, but because I had spent years pretending her words no longer affected me. The truth was, they still did. My name is Olivia Carter, and for nearly a decade, I carried scars that changed the way people looked at me. Some saw strength. Others saw tragedy. But my sister, Vanessa, only saw weakness. Growing up, Vanessa had always been the star of the family. She was confident, outgoing, and effortlessly charming. People loved being around her. I was different. I preferred quiet places, meaningful conversations, and a life away from attention. After the accident, those differences became even bigger. 8 years earlier, I had been working as a civilian engineer aboard a naval support vessel. During a severe emergency at sea, a series of explosions triggered a dangerous fire below deck. The details never made major headlines. Most people never heard about it. And, honestly, that was fine with me. I didn't want recognition. I only wanted to move forward. But moving forward became difficult after months of surgeries, rehabilitation, and emotional recovery. The burns left permanent scars across my shoulders and arms. And while my body slowly healed, my confidence never fully returned. Vanessa made sure of that. Whenever family gatherings happened, she found subtle ways to remind me that I was different. Maybe wear something with sleeves. People stare, you know. You were prettier before. Little comments. Small enough to sound harmless. Deep enough to stay with me for years. Over time, I stopped fighting back. It felt easier to stay silent. Then came the day everything changed. Vanessa's fiancé organized an extravagant engagement celebration at a luxury waterfront resort. Hundreds of guests attended. Business executives, friends, family members, local politicians. The kind of event where appearances mattered. I almost declined the invitation. But my mother insisted. "She's your sister," she said. "Don't let old disagreements keep you apart." So I went. For the first time in years, I wore a sleeveless dress. I told myself I was tired of hiding. For a few hours, everything seemed fine. Then Vanessa noticed my scars. I saw it happen instantly. That familiar expression. That familiar smile. The one that always appeared before she said something cruel. She raised her champagne glass and laughed. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said dramatically, drawing attention toward me. My stomach tightened. Vanessa pointed toward my shoulders. "Olivia says she's finally embracing her scars." A few people glanced over awkwardly. Then she smiled wider. "I call it bravery." She paused. "Or maybe she's just forgotten she's broken." Laughter echoed through the crowd. And in that moment, I felt every painful year come rushing back. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the ground beneath me to open. But what I didn't know that day was that someone very important had overheard everything. A man whose words would completely change the course of my life. And within minutes, Vanessa's perfect image would begin falling apart. The laughter slowly faded. But the damage remained. Humiliation has a way of lingering long after the moment ends. I lowered my eyes and tried focusing on the ocean beyond the resort's glass walls. Maybe if I stayed quiet, the attention would move elsewhere. That's what I had always done. Survive. Endure. Disappear. But before I could leave, a calm voice interrupted from behind the crowd. "I strongly disagree." The room immediately fell silent. Guests turned toward the entrance. An older man stepped forward wearing a dark navy suit decorated with military insignia. His posture was straight, his presence commanding. And the moment I saw him, my heart nearly stopped. Admiral Robert Hayes. The same admiral who had served aboard the fleet during the disaster years ago. Vanessa looked confused. "I'm sorry," she said politely. "Do we know each other?" The admiral barely acknowledged her. Instead, he walked directly toward me. Then he did something nobody expected. He saluted. The entire room froze, including me. "Miss Carter," he said warmly. "It is an honor to see you again." Whispers immediately spread across the ballroom. Vanessa laughed nervously. "You know Olivia?" The admiral turned slowly toward her. "Know her?" he repeated. Then his expression hardened. "Your sister saved hundreds of lives. The room became completely silent. I felt every eye shift toward me. The Admiral continued. During the fire aboard the USS Resolute, critical systems failed throughout the vessel. Memories flooded my mind. The smoke, the alarms, the panic, the desperate voices trapped below deck. I remembered running through burning corridors while emergency lights flickered around me. I remembered fear. And I remembered refusing to leave people behind. The Admiral looked around the room. While everyone else focused on escaping, Olivia restored emergency controls that prevented a chain reaction from spreading through nearby ships. Guests stared in disbelief. Vanessa's confident smile slowly disappeared. Without her actions, the Admiral continued, an entire fleet would have been at risk. I felt tears forming, not because of the recognition, but because someone finally understood what those scars represented. For years, Vanessa taught me to view them as proof of damage. The Admiral saw them differently. Proof of courage. Proof of sacrifice. Proof of survival. Vanessa tried to interrupt. She never told anyone that. The Admiral nodded. That's because real heroes rarely talk about themselves. The room fell silent again. Several guests who laughed earlier now looked embarrassed. Others looked ashamed. Some approached me quietly to apologize. And for the first time in years, I stopped feeling small. Because I finally realized something important. The problem was never my scars. The problem was allowing someone else's cruelty to define my value. And that realization changed everything. Vanessa stood motionless. The attention she spent her entire life chasing had completely shifted away from her. Now people weren't admiring her. They were questioning her. Her fiancé looked stunned. You told me Olivia struggled after the accident, he said quietly. Vanessa nodded. She did. But you never told me she saved lives. Vanessa couldn't answer. Because there was no explanation. No excuse. No clever joke. Only the truth. And the truth had finally arrived. Over the next hour, guests gathered around me asking questions about the rescue. The Admiral shared stories I had forgotten. Stories about sailors reunited with their families. Stories about crew members who survived because emergency systems came back online. Stories about lives that continued because of choices made during one terrible night. Every story felt unreal. For years, I focused only on what I lost. I never stopped to consider what had been saved. Later that evening, Vanessa approached me privately. For the first time in my life, she looked uncertain. Small. Almost frightened. I'm sorry, she whispered. I looked at her quietly. Part of me wanted to hear those words. Another part felt strangely empty. Because some wounds take years to create. And apologies alone cannot erase them. You spent years calling me broken, I said softly. Tears filled her eyes. I know. I nodded. But I was never broken. That was the moment everything changed. Not because Vanessa apologized. Not because people finally respected me. But because I finally believed those words myself. Months later, Admiral Hayes invited me to speak at a ceremony honoring civilian bravery. I almost declined. Public attention still made me uncomfortable. But eventually I accepted. When the day arrived, I stood before hundreds of people wearing a sleeveless navy blue gown. No jackets. No hiding. No shame. For the first time in nearly 10 years, my scars were visible. And I wasn't afraid. The audience applauded. But the most powerful moment happened afterward. A young woman approached me quietly. She had scars of her own. And tears in her eyes. You helped me stop hating myself, she said. At that moment, I understood something I wish I had known years earlier. Scars don't make us broken. Pain doesn't make us weak. And surviving difficult chapters doesn't reduce our worth. Sometimes the people closest to us will try to convince us we're damaged. Not because we are, but because they cannot understand our strength. The greatest justice isn't watching someone else fall. It's finally rising above the words that once held you down. And that day, I finally did.